Okay, welcome back to Naked Exposure. So, unfortunately, last week Olympus sold off their camera brand of the company, and that is the end of Olympus. Just straight up, that is the end of Olympus. 101 years of the company existing and selling cameras for the past 84 years. That's it. They have subsided into dust after a loss for the past 3 years, consecutively losing money every year. The company had to sell off its business. So yeah, that means Olympus could technically be done now. This new company that's bought it, which is called Japan Industrial Partners, a very conventional, generic corporate name, has bought Olympus. But you know, I don't really have faith, unfortunately, that company will continue on the heritage of Olympus, continue on like the same amazing ethos that the company had as a whole, and just carry a really solid name for the business. I think they're just going to try and milk the cow and get as much money out as possible. But I hope I'm wrong. I'm looking at a very pessimistic viewpoint of it, but when a company has a name like that, you don't imagine them having heritage and stuff at the forefront of their thoughts. Now, me hearing that Olympus has crumbled is very sad, to be honest, because I actually have like a big place in my heart for Olympus. I think Olympus make absolutely fantastic cameras. They have just such a keen eye and such a good team over the years working on the cameras. I've never had an Olympus camera that I've thought, God damn, that's a bit crap. All of them have surprised me. You look up reviews and you watch videos and you look at pictures online, and it just looks the same as every other camera. But when you use an Olympus camera, it just has a certain sort of polish to it. I haven't used any of the more recent digital cameras or anything from that field, but losing Olympus in that field is a bit sad because there's so many other competitors in the market: Nikon, Canon, Fuji, and some of them are good and some of them are bad. In recent years, Canon, in my opinion, has turned into a very corporate, money-consuming company. They limp their own products and put things behind either a paywall or sort of they try and not cannibalize their higher markets. And just unless you're buying the top Canon camera, they're not that good anymore. They've just completely cannibalized their own company. They're so consumed by money, and they gimp a lot of their products just so in the future you buy a new thing when they release it. Olympus is one of the best camera brands in the olden days, in my opinion. They created some of the best cameras we've ever had, some of the best manufactured, technological, and just well thought out cameras. They had inventors that were really clever, that had a lot of time and space to create their stuff, and were just given a lot of resources, and they made outstanding cameras, and they still do to this day. But yeah, that's Olympus done. The camera section is done after 101 years in business. So yeah, it's a tough one because of course the whole digital camera world is sort of on a shaky rock right now because according to a statistic that I just saw, between the year 2010 to 2018, standalone camera sales dropped by 84%. That's huge. That is a huge amount of sales loss. And if you think about how many companies there are in that space competing, how year on year companies want to make the same amount of profit or more, that is very difficult, and the pie's divided between more people and less money over time. Just some of the classics that they started with. The first classic I can think of is the Olympus Trip 35. That's my first classic within the company. That came out in 1967. It ran off a solar cell. I've covered that camera before, but I think now that the company's crumbled away, I want to do another review in more depth, look into the Olympus Trip 35. It was such a good camera. It was an affordable holiday camera that anyone could take anywhere. It didn't need batteries, had auto exposure modes, and you could just carry anywhere and anyone could use it. Olympus Trip 35 is a brilliant camera.
That's very nice, thank you. I got a smile, everybody, please, smile. Waste of time if you haven't taken a light, really.
It's all right. This Olympus is completely automatic. It works out the light, and you just click the shutter.
Oh, it's okay for snaps, but just you try and enlarge them. You see, the trouble with these small cameras is the lens.
No problem. There's a Seiko lens. They use it on the Olympus OM1, one of the best cameras in the world.
Well, I suppose they're all right for you boys, but you wouldn't get a professional using one.
Do you know who that is?
Who?
David Bailey.
David Bailey? Who's he?
The Olympus Trip. So simple, anyone can use it.
So yeah, with the inventor of the Olympus Trip 35, he just knew the fundamentals of what makes a great camera. It's not, how it looks, it's not the overall feel, it's how it performs. And he made that a key point of his cameras. It didn't matter how cheap an Olympus camera was. If it had the Zukio branding on it, the amount of resources, time and effort that went into the glass of the camera was huge, and that's what made up the camera. And that's why on every single product range you could get really great results, like great sharpness, amazing color rendition, and just an overall great look. The Olympus Trip 35 was a product in the price range for everybody. A teenager, a granny, a mum, a dad, a low income worker, anyone could afford an Olympus Trip 35, and it became just a household product. It being like that, without ever using it and just looking at it, you would think it looks like very cheap or a very basic product, but it's not. If you hold an Olympus Trip 35, it feels as good as any SLR. It feels great. It's just well thought out, And that was my first experience with Olympus. The Olympus Trip 35, holding it, feeling it, using it, and then thinking, this is great, but I wish the results were going to be good. This is a cheap camera, and then being blown away by just the depth of field you can get, the color rendition, the sharpness, the overall look a Zukio lens gives you is amazing. So that was my first dip into Olympus, was the Olympus Trip 35. Phenomenal camera. And now from that, which was a milestone, a goalpost, onto the Olympus OM1, their big SLR with interchangeable lenses. Of course, it was a single lens reflex where you can view through the actual glass instead of using a rangefinder patch and focusing images together. The OM1 is legendary. Ask anybody today about what's one of the most famous Olympus cameras ever. The OM1 is that, because the glass it had was legendary, the price was amazing, the build quality phenomenal, and it held its name for eternity. Up until last week when the company was demolished, the OM1 was one of the crown jewels of Olympus, and also still not super expensive, a lot more affordable than products Nikon were making at the time. After the OM1, we went on to the Olympus XA, another personal favourite. Olympus XA, the world's smallest rangefinder, which still holds that title today. Actually, it's right here. That was perfect. I did not plan that. I was just very lucky that I had that in there. The Olympus XA, covered it so many times on this channel, I'm not even going to go into that too much, but going from Olympus Trip 35 to the OM1 to the XA, that's just home run after home run after home run. Nailing so many different markets with each camera, making them all very affordable, and focusing on the glass, because the creator and the inventor knew how important it was and put like 90% of the budget into the glass, but then he still just somehow made the products feel really good and feel premium when they had such a small budget of materials. He just made it work, and I think Olympus will just hold that place in my heart for those reasons. It had so much love put into the company. Now maybe that changed over time when we went into the digital space, but I think that some of that, that Japanese sort of cultural love, that someone puts into their work, in Japan, the cultural ideology is just, you put so much love and passion into your work. It is your life, it's your lifestyle, is your work, and it is just such a huge part of who you are as a person. And they don't view it as a tedious thing or as work. They view it as a lifelong dedication, and Olympus is one of those crown jewels of that. So by the time the XA was out and in everyone's hand, Olympus already had a very solid reputation. They've made a lot of great products, and that fire just continued into the 90s, when in 1991 Olympus brought out the Olympus Muji 1.
Oh, I'm here for the portrait, love. Oh. Excuse me, Mr. Radiator Man, but could we just chill out a bit, please? Of course, he's done them all, The Everly Brothers, Herman Hermit. Wow, it's art, it's sculpture, it's... What is it?
The latest Olympus, the Mew.
Oh, the Mew.
Automatic everything. Even a new kind of flag. Help stop red eye.
No, this is the sort of... I was about to say soy boy, that's not the term. That's not the term I wanted to use. This is like the ultimate peak uni student camera of today, is the Olympus Muji 1 or 2. If you ask any sort of college student or a student who studies art or anything what film camera they have or what film camera they saw on YouTube, it's usually an Olympus Muji 1 or Olympus Muji 2. I'm not ripping that at all, because I was one of those people. That's how, when I started, you know, looking into cameras, Olympus Muji 2 was the ultimate sort of hipster camera, I suppose, even though I don't want to associate with that. And it was for good reason that the Olympus Muji series has a great name, because they were, again, very affordable, and again had that Zukio glass, which was pin sharp. I actually was just scanning Olympus Muji 1 shots today from like a year ago, and I was shocked at how sharp they are. I was shocked at the depth of field you can get with that little thing. And the one issue it has is the autofocus isn't great, but it was 1991. I don't blame it, you know, it wasn't great. But the Olympus Muji 2 comes out, and it kind of improved on everything the Olympus Muji 1 did. Sharper lens, going from 3.5 to 2.8 on the aperture, better autofocus, and all around just a better camera with weatherproofing. And that was, I think, the last great film camera that Olympus made, was the Olympus Muji 2 in 1997, which is actually the year I was born. So there we go, everything's coming together in sort of my own fandom towards Olympus. So yeah, that's like a brief history of Olympus and the cameras that I think are really noteworthy. There's also the Olympus OM4 Ti, titanium Olympus OM4. I would love to own one of those things, but they're super expensive and rare. A titanium OM4 would be beautiful. But yeah, having all of that history and everything there just crumbling because of loss of sales is kind of sad, you know. So sales in the camera world dropped 84%, and for, you know, quite obvious reasons. The phone market is just consuming everything. People don't want to buy an expensive camera or spend £500 and up on a dedicated standalone camera when they have their iPhone, which can take great images. You know, it doesn't make much sense to a lot of people when we're in a time now, especially having just been through a pandemic and money is very tight. You know, people don't have the money to spend on standalone cameras, and that's it at an end. You know, they have a foot in the history of the camera world, and we wouldn't have some of the technology we have now today, you know, unless Olympus did their part. So I have huge props for Olympus. I'm going to treasure all the Olympus cameras I have for a lot longer. This thing is going to get a lot more love than it already did. And my Olympus Trip 35 is going to have a little spin. It's sad to hear that this happens to Olympus. They just couldn't keep up on, you know, the constantly progressing camera world and the technology world in general. You know, I think the next company to go is going to be Nikon. Looking at the way sales are for Nikon as a whole, it's not looking good. It's not looking good. Their sales are dropping, I think, every single year. They only have brought out one new camera in the past couple of years, you know, the Nikon Z. So they really need to pull something out of the bag. They really, really, really do need to pull something out of the bag and try and, you know, fix it. But what can they do? That's the issue. What can you do when phones are consuming the market? There's nothing you can do. The only thing you can do is make cameras as streamlined as phones. If you can make it, you can instantly upload to social media and all this kind of stuff. That's the only way that cameras are going to survive, unfortunately. And also YouTube is keeping camera company alive. That's it. YouTube and social media is the only thing keeping these things alive. So they need to work with that market and mold into it. Otherwise they're going to sink under, which, yeah, Nikon's got that coming for them. But yeah, I just hope it doesn't hit any other big brands, and I hope that the heritage of Olympus and people will understand how big a part of history they played in the camera world. I just love the company, and I just wanted to share that with you because I think you should look into Olympus. And if you don't own Olympus cameras, now's the time to buy one, because I'm sure those prices will start going up again. Woo! Thanks for watching.